Guys, welcome back to episode 19 of the Light Warriors Unleashed podcast. And today is a solo episode, and I go into the heat of illusions, how we're living in a world full of illusions, how we're seeing life through these rose colored glasses, how this is showing up in our world, hindering us from shining brightly in the world. So I cannot wait to serve you in this solo episode today to help you move through and see this truth in your life so that you can step in and be the beautiful, bright light being that you are. So here we go. Episode 19, Light Warriors Unleashed podcast, The Truth in the Illusion. I'll see you guys all in there. What's up and welcome back. Oh my God, guys. I am so excited to dive into this concept with you about illusions and the illusions in our life and the illusions in the energy field and the illusions that show up consistently in our fields that are blocking our intuitive flow. So I want to tell you a little story. So back, oh my gosh, 14 years ago, wow, when I had my first spiritual mentor in my life that dropped in, and you may or may not know, I worked with her for actually 5 years. And in those 5 years, I saw her every month for 5 years. And there was 1 year in there that I saw her every single week. And I was in it, guys. I was knee deep in spiritual awakening. I was knee deep in honoring my skill set. I was knee deep in discovering my purpose in life. I was in it to win it, let's say. And I desired and really wanted to be able to shift the energy in my field, to hold the capacity, to understand truth, to align in my truth and really, really get and understand it. And like you've heard me say, if you've been listening to this podcast and you've been around in my wheelhouse for a little while, I've had multiple dark nights of the soul. And some of them I went really deep in, some of them I surface level in, and then I had to go back in and actually go in to actually discover some things, all of it in the purity of light, of course. But there was 1 year in that 5 year span where my mentor and I worked within a concept called the 12 veils of illusion. Now, what had happened a few months before that is that the word or that verbiage kept dropping into the field. Now, most of you guys don't know, I wrote a book in 2012, got self-published in 2013, and launched into the world at the end of January of 2013, called Change the Light Bulb. And that title and that energy, I also taught a workshop on it. It accompanied the book. It literally dropped into my field to be able to serve humanity, but also to edify who I was. Because when you're an author of a book, and you can get into doorways sometimes with that, right? And that title was dropped into my field of awareness through my guides, through my spiritual mentor, through the work that we were doing together in that space of time. And literally, I love intuition and I love how things move through our world. I literally wrote that book in a channeled way. Now, at the time, remember, I didn't own channeling. I didn't know or understand it really in concept, meaning it was never something that I did, but I channeled that whole book. I literally would go up to the cottage for 3 days at a time. And for 1 hour or 2 hours throughout the day, I would sit down at my computer and I'd literally type out whatever dropped into my awareness space. And then I'd be like, okay, a chapter is done. And then I'd do whatever I wanted for the rest of the day, literally fuck all up at the cottage, right? And I did this numerous times until I think it was 13 chapters of the book was written. And I wonder if I'm looking right now for those of you listening to the podcast, I wonder if I brought a copy with me to Costa Rica because I got rid of everything. You know what? Actually, I think I kept a copy in one of the bins. I have 2 bins up in Canada that have some of my stuff. I'm pretty sure I have a copy in there because obviously I wanted to keep at least one. It was self-published. I don't even think you can get it on Amazon anymore. And if you can, I think it was $1,000 that you can get it because I just stopped paying the dues every year to get it republished because I just didn't need it any longer. But why I say to you this story and this crazy intuitiveness is that was the first project that dropped in. And then later on that year, so 2013, so 10 years ago, I guess I went through this amazingness of the 12 veils of illusion. And it dropped into our space a couple months before. Now, obviously, we were in the awareness, my spiritual mentor and I, that my guides, spirits, angels, entities serving in my field to help me step into my mission were speaking in words like this into my field and allowing us to decipher what it meant. like change the light bulb. It was like, what does this mean? And are we moving through? Like the subtitle of the book was like habits and choices to create success in all aspects of your life. Right. So like for the work I do now, it's not really relevant. However, at the time in my leadership development and culture management that I did in businesses, it worked out in a frame because I talked about, the dimensions of the human and all these kinds of things that I used to work within all the time. So this verbiage of like the 12 veils of illusion dropped in, and we were like, what is this? Right. We've done numerous clearings. Like it was like almost every month I was getting a laser clearing done while we did a session, from my guides and moving energy through. Guys, I had a lot of shit to work through. I've done a lot of work energetically in my field, and a lot of work. Like I am talking like laser clearings and like Reiki, and not in a way of normal Reiki, but in a way of like shifting energy and like a heightened Reiki state. Like I have done so much clearing over 14 years, literally May long weekend up in Canada. So it'll be in like 3 weeks from when this podcast is dropping, that I literally started this journey and moving through 14 years. I've been doing this work, and not even personal development work that I started when I was 23. I'm talking about spiritual work, like pure alignment and clearing of energy. So when this concept dropped in about the 12 veils of illusion, we were like, what the fuck is this? Right? What does this mean? And so we started diving deeper, asking more questions, listening, channeling, moving the energy through, acknowledging it, that type of diversity as we move through. And we were given 12 veils that are currently in my energetic field at the time. They are no longer in my energetic field, obviously, but they were in my energetic field at the time. And these 12 veils were needing to be cleared. And I'm right now fiddling around with a ring light. And don't worry about the audio. I just want to make sure I tell you the truth, because if you're watching the video, you're seeing me do this. So these 12 veils of illusion literally are these energies that I have been seeing the world within for this amount of time. And through these veils, so like if you think about rose-colored glasses, if you stack 12 of them together and each of them held a certain emotion, I was looking through this my whole entire life up until this point. So let me give you the 12 veils and let me see how you feel about them. Hopefully I can remember them all. Let me see. Inadequacy, feeling unloved, feeling unworthy, jealousy, guilt, grief, the energy of self-sabotage, like sabotaging things, acceptance. What else do we got? The shadow self, which was the last one that got cleared. We've got the energy of jealousy. We've got, I can't remember the last two, but there's 12 of them. And I'm like, oh man, I just don't want to like delay this, like, cause I'm actually recording right now and I don't want to pause it. Cause usually when I pause my recording, something fucked up happens to them. So I don't want to pause this to go in, and maybe I'll remember them as we move through this conversation, but there was 12 of them. And that's how I saw the world. So if you can imagine a girl, so how this actually all dropped in and how this all came into awareness. And let me tell you guys this, because this is like a real thing. I was 18 months old, playing in the sandbox, hanging out. And all of a sudden this entity who looked like a friend, at the time I saw spirits. We all do at this age, guys, just to let you know, all of us come into this world with a very thin veil, but we can't talk and we can't express ourselves. So we can't tell people that we see it. And by the time we start talking, we get diminished by society, our parents, and all the things, so that we stop talking about this kind of stuff, right? We stop talking about this alignment of spiritualism in our world, or we get conditioned by our environments to not talk about it. Like when people have pretend friends or invisible friends is what our parents called it, they're actually talking to spirits. So here I am at 18 months old in the sandbox talking to the spirit. His name was Morgan, and he was the 12th veil that we cleared, the shadow self, the 12th veil. And he said to me, hey, can I become friends with you? And at the time, I didn't understand. I was making a contractual commitment with this entity who then dropped into my field, who brought in these 12 veils into my energetic field. And, I said to my mom, I was like, Mom, can you remember a time back when I was like 18 months old where I literally was a super go lucky, happy baby? And then one day I woke up and I wasn't any longer. And she couldn't remember a pulse point on that. Like it didn't It wasn't in her awareness field. My brother was 3 months old, like we were 15 months apart. So she was preoccupied with the newborn. So it was like, it wasn't in her awareness. She didn't know. But literally at 18 months old, I put on these glasses and I started seeing life through all this vibration now. So if you ever read books and if you are inclined to like kinesiology or levels of consciousness, Dr. David Hawkins wrote a book called Power versus Force, which is one of the staple books in my world and has been for a long time. I actually saw him speak his last ever public talk before he passed over. Oh my God, back in Sedona, I don't even know when, or was in Phoenix sometime back in, I don't even know when, like 5, 10, probably about 10 years ago. And he references this level of consciousness, this ladder of consciousness. And if you can imagine on a scale of 0 to 1,000 being enlightenment, most people in the world right now, the world vibrates around 200-ish. It may have amplified. I guarantee you probably didn't. It probably went down now because of all the shit that's happened over the last couple of years. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you see it, because we're exposing truth now and moving through that. However, I was a baby that vibrated at the scale of over 600 at the time before I took on these veils. When I brought them into my field, I dropped to 180. So if you can imagine this happy-go-lucky living, I think the vibration of love is 500. So I was vibrating at 600 above love. And 1 point difference on the scale makes a huge ass impact. Okay. So like I dropped 420 points on this scale of only 1,000, like halfway through the fucking scale I dropped. So I started living life in all of these low vibrations, seeing life in these low vibrations. Scarcity is one of the other ones. Yes, scarcity. And freaking living life in that field. So as you can imagine, moving through this energy and embodying this energy was fucked up. But for 30 years of my life, 30 years, like crazy, right? This is how I saw life. Now, granted, what started happening was my spirit kept dropping in, my soul kept leading the way and would start to shift some energy. So I wasn't no longer at 180. I could move through it. However, part of me lived in that vibration of that low vibration field. So every single one of us as humans on this earth has a veil. 1, 5, maybe you have all 12 like I did. Maybe you have 50. Some of us have been gifted beautiful experiences. And if you're watching this video, you see my smile. But if you're not, I'm smiling in a sarcastic way because sometimes the shit we go through on earth is fucking hard. Okay. It's not easy to step into this space. But what I want to bring light to today is this veil. All of these are illusions. They are things that we put in place in our space to learn from. And we can dismantle this veil in real time now. We can look at it, we can honor it, we can move through it, we can pull the fucking root out of it, and we can get through this in immediacy. When I did this work, I sat in this veil for 1 month. So let's say the veil was jealousy. All month long, I was remembering times in my life I was jealous. All month long, I was feeling the energy of jealousy around me. All month long, I was in this field of jealousy consistently throughout the whole month until I went back and saw my mentor the next month and we cleared jealousy and then we lit up again in the next veil. For 1 year, I did all of this. Now, I documented the process. I created voice notes. Somewhere down the line, I'll write a book on this and it will be almost like my biography or autobiography or whatever. I never can reference the right name for this. And I will own this. Sometimes I get things like this mixed up. So I will own this. It will be a story of my life that I will write from the perspective of these 12 veils and the movement within my life and the remembering within my life of how they showed up and how the human I was back then leading with these veils in my world. So I wanted to bring this into awareness for you, is you have veils too. And really looking at yourself and starting to honor that these veils are an illusion. You feeling scared about not stepping in. Oh, fear. Fear is the other one. There it is. I told you I'd remember all 12. You having that fear of not stepping into that space. You feeling like you are unloved when that's a complete like illusion. Oh no, it's disillusionment. Fear, shame, and anger fall into play in one of like in three of these other veils. It's disillusionment. That's the other word. And that's the other veil. But in your life, your veils may be different. Scarcity is a big one for a lot of people right now. People are feeling the pull of scarcity. And our next level and next movement in life is going to require us to step into the space and own our abundant flow, not just in money, but in all things. And right now, you are being pushed against something in order for you to step in and trust that abundance in energy, love, money, adventure, joy, peace is on the other side of this. But you've got to step in and move through this scarcity moving through you, this what if it doesn't happen, this oh my god, I can't even, this will we have enough money. All of the scarcity that's moving through your energy field right now is needed to be tapped in and turned off. And you need to, and I say the word need because you're being called to step in. Something is pinging you right now in scarcity. I guarantee you something is pinging you in scarcity. What is it? And allow yourself to drop into that, to move it through. Because one of these 12 veils, all 12 veils, your own veils, there's a veil of illusion in your space right now. And most of us have more than one. So last year in 2022, it dropped in that I needed to teach this as a program. And I said, okay, am I doing this for the year like I did? They're like, no, time has collapsed since you did this program. We can now get it done in 12 weeks. Okay, so one veil a week. We step into that veil and we clear it because of the fact that the energy is moving so potently through the world now that we can literally change stuff and transmute energy quicker than we've ever done before. Each week needs a veil. Now, when we started, it ended up being 13 weeks because I needed to do the intro leading into the first veil the first week to then be able to step in and clear. Well, if you listen to this podcast before May the 15th on 2023, the program is back. I will be doing this program every single year. And this is the shadow work because every single one of us needs to do shadow work in order for our light to amplify. And if we are not doing the shadow work, we are being stuck now in chaos. I guarantee you, if you are in chaos right now, you're in scarcity, you have lack of clarity, you're not motivated to do things, your life is dramatic, you are not doing the shadow work because your light cannot amplify through all the shit storms and all the craziness in your world right now. We need to drop into the space to heal. And through the healing, then we get to the other side to amplify more light. And then we do it again. And then we do it again. And then we do it again. But one thing I want you to recognize and realize is this journey that we're on is worth the work. You are meant and destined to have this beautiful life of connection, of peace, of joy, of love, of energy, of abundance, of wealth, of whatever it is you want in your life. You are meant to have this in your life. But you need to take action now and step into the space and realize most of your life is a fucking illusion. The shit you're dealing with right now, the emotions, the fear that you've been fucking sitting in for so long is an illusion. It's meant to distract you, to keep you small. And until you deal with it, and until you step into this, and until you move it through, you will be small still. And you'll still have the challenges, and you'll still be in the conformity energy, and you still will be fucking shit up. Even though that's an illusion as well. Because you can never really fuck shit up. You can't. You can learn a lot more things, which makes this whole entire experience so beautiful, isn't it? Right? And I really want you to feel this today. Where in your life are you living in an illusion? Is it in your relationships? Is it in the way that you think you parent your kids? Is it a way that you do business? Is it a way that you're showing up in the world? You know, is it in a way that you're showing up to your jobs, in the way that you're showing up in your life for yourself? Part of your life is an illusion right now, because if it wasn't, you wouldn't be listening to this at this very moment of time. Let's get honest. I talk a lot about personal responsibility, and guys, this is one of the biggest lessons I've had to learn, and I still am in consistently all the time. I've got to check myself here because I want to avoid. I want to hide. I want to stay in my recluse. I want to hang out in my little casa in Costa Rica and be by myself and not talk to people and not step out of this space because I want to avoid. And I'm learning every fucking day to take responsibility for certain dynamics of my world and step in and keep stepping in and keep stepping in and keep stepping in, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Guys, I get you. I get you. And I can only speak to this because I've worked through this. I can only speak to this because I've addressed the illusions in my life and I still pop the bubbles consistently. I'm like, is that an illusion? Let's pop the bubble and see. You are meant for amazing things, my friend. And I want to remind you of this today in this short burst, right to the fucking point podcast. It's not going to take me long to transmute this into your field because I also have meatballs in the oven that I need to pay attention to that I purposely put in on so I could just hone in to this message real tight for you guys today because I was feeling it drop in this morning in the shower. And like a lot of the work I do whenever I'm grounded either on earth or like I'm in the shower or I'm walking on the beach or I'm out in the sun, whether I'm by a fire, you give me any of the four elements, I'm channeling consistently about new things. And I said, what am I going to record the podcast on this week? And they said, the illusion. Said, okay, I will lean into the illusion because guys, we're living in an illusion. And it's time for you to start popping bubbles around you to feel your truth and to step into your truth and to actually not let all the shit that you think is real, which isn't, inhibit you from stepping into the life that you desire and deserve. And I'm not really a big fan of the word deserve because everybody deserves a life of alignment, quote unquote. We don't need to work to deserve anything. We are human, worthy of this experience. We dropped into this physical form to come to earth to have an experience. It's time to stop living in your illusion. And it's time to take action and move forward and trust and have courage and surrender and be all in. Also, too, guys, I'm going to put in the show notes. Tomorrow, which is the day after this podcast gets released, I'm teaching a free masterclass called Surrender. I'm going to put the link. If you feel this energy and you desire to lean into more surrendering and you desire to lean into this space to learn how to surrender more, to lean in, it's free. I'm going to put the link down in the show notes. Grab it if you desire this. It will be, I'll probably throw it onto YouTube, even though I'm teaching it in a Facebook group, and you guys will get access to it. I want this energy to circulate in the field so you can surrender into the space you're meant to be in. Because guys, when we start to believe and we start to feel that truth pulsating and we actually really recognize that we are living in an illusion, then life gets way easier. We can drop in faster, we can own our space more potently, we can lean in a lot quicker, and we can move energy through. So my last question for you is a question I've been asking you this whole podcast. Where in your life are you living an illusion? And what are you going to do about it? And I want to finish the podcast off with that because that was a pretty powerful message coming through. Until next time, see you guys again soon.